Hello, Donna here, and now I want to talk about idealistic perfection. Now, this is a subject that maybe not all of us, no, I'm going to take that back. All of us deal with this at some point in our lives. We may not deal with it when we're young, we may deal with it when we're older, or this may be a recurring issue that someone has to battle their entire life through. And pretty much it's basically battling what you think you should be versus what you are and coming to love yourself for what you are. Now, I come from a dysfunctional family, to say it nicely. I mean, there's white trash. That my family is what you would call white trash, but to me, I call them family. I don't really know how to function in a non-dysfunctional family. And because of the way I was raised, the people that were around me, and because of the media, I was always thought that I was supposed to be a certain way. I was supposed to be a Christian. I was supposed to be thin. I was supposed to be pretty. I was supposed to be completely healthy. And I was supposed to get all A's in school, go to college. I was supposed to find a nice man to marry in college, spit out 3 or 4 kids, and completely devote myself to my family. And that's what I was told I was supposed to do. Maybe not in those exact words, but the impression had always been there. And I won't lie, I am a smart person. I got really good grades in school. When I want to, I can really buckle down and retain information and regurgitate it like you wouldn't believe. I can do that. I am book smart and I do have common sense. But I also have my flaws. For example, I don't want to be a mother. Another thing, I'm an epileptic, so the health issue, gone. Can't do that. I always had it in my head that I had to overcome it, that it was something that had to be overcome. And epilepsy is not something you overcome, it's something you live with. You can't overcome an illness. Not an active one that's going to be part of you for the rest of your life. You don't overcome it. That's like saying you overcome cancer. I don't think you can overcome cancer. You can battle cancer, you can go into remission from cancer, you can get extremely sick and go into hospice from cancer, but I don't think you can overcome cancer. I don't think it works that way. Now, you may have a different opinion on this, but that's just the way I look at it. For me, you don't overcome epilepsy. I don't overcome it. I accept it. It's part of me. It's part of who I am. It's something that I will have for the rest of my life. And if I do end up having children, there is a chance that I can pass it on to them genetically, even though that chance is slimmer than my chances were. I had a predisposition. My biological father had epilepsy. His parents had epilepsy. I was predisposed to it, and then I had a head injury that triggered the grand mal seizures that I had. I think they renamed it now, but that's what I was always told to call them. And then I still have recurring episodes occasionally with that. There are triggers and things that I can do to reduce the chances of me having a seizure, but the chances of epilepsy completely receding is pretty slim. It can happen, but it's not likely. So that, combined with me not really wanting to have children, and then let me tell you something a little bit personal that's probably TMI, a little bit too much information. I was a virgin until I was 24 years old. Yeah. I didn't lose my virginity until about a year and a half ago. No, it was less than a year and a half, about a year ago. So, think about that for a moment. Really. I dated a couple guys, but never really went too far with them. And I had image issues. I didn't love myself. So how could I ever possibly love someone else? And I know you're saying, well, you don't need to have love to have sex. And that's true. But I've never done that. I mean, I am idealistic, and I'm kind of like one of those closet romantics that really don't want to be known as a romantic, but really deep down they kind of are. Where I wanted to be in a relationship that was meaningful and monogamous with someone that I trusted before I lost my virginity to them, and there was just a string of forgive my language, but assholes before the person that I met now and that I'm with now. So, yeah. But it took me a long time to come to the realization that I don't have to meet anyone's standards but my own. And then once I realized that, I had to sit down and figure out what were my standards, what did I want, and once I figured out what it was that I wanted, I was so much happier. I'm not saying that I don't care about what other people think, because I think everyone does on some level. How deep it goes depends on the person. For example, you can say you don't care about what other people think of you, but if you go to work in business attire, then you're caring about how some people think about you. You're caring about what your bosses think of you. You're caring about, because if they don't approve of the way you dress to go to work and they think it's inappropriate, then you don't have a job. But you do care about what someone thinks of you. Everyone has that at some level, and people who don't, I don't think I've ever met someone who doesn't have that at some level about something. I've always been raised to believe that you have a public appearance and then you have a private appearance. The two are very separate. There's a way that you act in public, and then there's a way you act at home. And it has more to do with manners and respect than it does anything else. Like, I'm not two different people. I just show a certain amount of respect, and I have manners when I'm in public, and then when I'm at home, I can be as rude and obnoxious as I want. Not that I always am, but I can be. I think that's something in my generation that has been overlooked, and it's lacking. And the only reason I think of that in the first place, I think that way, is because of the influence of my great aunt, who's an older lady, and very much into manners and respect. Very southern, strict, family-oriented, proper type person. So, once I learned that I didn't have to please anyone but myself, I was so much happier. The balance between pleasing myself and pleasing other people, that was a little bit more of a challenge, because there were other people that I wanted to make, get their approval from. There was my parents, my aunt, my friends, and I had to learn to let that go. You can't make everyone happy. You certainly can't make yourself happy by making everyone else happy. You just can't. That was a really hard lesson. It took a long time. Gosh, it seems like I've grown so much in the last 2 years versus any other time in my life. I will say this though, something that has helped me learn to love myself: affirmations. I had a self-esteem problem, image issues, and all this. Affirmations, getting out there, working, supporting myself, being self-sufficient. It did wonders for my self-esteem. It really did. The affirmations that I do are very simple. I think I have a video of this already. And it's basically things like, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are successful, It sounds cheesy, but if you tell yourself this every day, and you look in your mirror, and you mean it, and you're serious, and you tell yourself every day, you will start to believe it. It's kind of like brainwashing, really, but it works. And that's the point. That, combined with me going out and making my own money, and not having to rely on someone else to help me through anything, showed me that I can be self-reliant and I didn't need anyone. And when I knew that I didn't need anyone, I knew that I didn't have to make anyone happy either, because I made myself happy. And once I got to a place where I love myself, that's when I was able to love other people. And it wasn't until then that I actually had a happy relationship. So you can say up until I was 24 years old, I was not a happy person. I was very negative and pessimistic, miserable sometimes. I was a little bit depressed, though not clinically depressed, just a little, and just, there's a difference there. And then once I got out there in the thick of it and just did my thing and got on my own 2 feet and proved to myself that I can do whatever it is I want to do, despite what other people thought. Do you really, in my situation, one day I woke up and decided I didn't want to live with my aunt anymore. I was going to move out. And then once I decided that, I heard that one of my friends was thinking the same thing. And then a couple months later, one of his friends was thinking the same thing. And then the 3 of us kind of grouped together and said, okay, we all want the same thing. Let's do this together and cut the costs. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any money. My 2 roommates helped cover me in getting the apartment. Well, technically Anthony did that because I wasn't really friends with my other roommate, Josh. And I will be forever grateful for Anthony for that. He covered my end, my part of the down payment in getting the apartment, the first month's rent, and even the second month's rent, because I didn't have my check by the time the next month's rent was done. But once I decided what I wanted and I went for it, and I moved to a city with no job, no money, just the things I had accumulated up until that point, with hand-me-downs, free stuff, and a couple yard sale items from the local, and a couple things from Goodwill to help me with the basics. Do you really think my family had very high hopes that I would be able to make it on my own? No, they all thought, they didn't even think I was going to move out. I told them I was moving out and they laughed at me and thought I was joking, this was just one of my crazy ideas, But no, I moved out, and I didn't go for them for help. I never had to ask them for money. There got a point where I needed money, and I got a second job rather than going crawling on my hands and knees back to them, and that's part of my pride. Yeah, but it felt good to be self-reliant. It felt good not to have to rely on someone else. And that's something that I am lacking in my current situation, because I have to rely completely on my boyfriend and his father. And that's driving me nuts. I like being independent. But that's a different video. So my advice for anyone who happens to be going through what I went through only a year ago, 2 years ago, it's to figure out what it is you want and start going for it, because that's really what set it off for me, figuring out what I wanted and then starting the steps to get what I want. Once I started those steps, everything fell into place. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but for the main character, it happened to her very, very similarly. Once she figured out what it was that she wanted, and once she started making things happening for herself, she started feeling happy. She got out of the slump. She was good with who she was. She didn't change her appearance because someone else wanted her to. She did it because it made her feel good about her. Do what makes you feel good about you, but do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because, you're feeling bad, so you're going to sleep with this guy because he'll make you feel sexy. Don't do that. That doesn't fix the problem. You need to get down to the problem and address it. You need to bring up your shadows, do a little shadow work, address the problem, accept who you are, and you will be happy. That's all you need to do, is accept who you are, love who you are, and you'll be golden. Much harder to do than just saying it. I admit that, but it is well worth the effort. Well worth it. So thank you for listening. Comment, message, whatever. I'll reply, and I'll talk to you guys later.